Hey everybody, Patty Ann here. I got an email today from Betsy, and she's having a little bit of trouble with an embroidery file, so I thought I'd help her out with that and maybe help you as well. She said, "Hi Patty Ann, I don't know if you can help me, but you're good at understanding the embroidery files, and I thought you could help. I'm attaching a file I got from Sulky. I hope you can open it. The confusing part is, if you look at the picture of the embroidery, it looks like it's all embroidered. But when I open the sheet of instructions, it's treating it like it has applique in it. I'm trying to practice on the workspace in Embrilliance, but it seems to be all embroidery as well. Does it make any sense to you? I want to make a mug rug. Thanks for your help, Betsy." All right, so let's see. Don't say that. Here's what it looks like when you bring it into Embrilliance. Let me show you what it looks like. If you have it, okay, this is what she's saying is confusing as well. If you can see this very closely, you can see that it does indeed look like that's all stitches over top of that, right? So why in the world was it appliqued? I don't know. So I'm going to run through the design over here on my machine and see. But let's look first in Embrilliance and see what we have. First of all, the thing that confuses me right off the bat is that three colors are the same right in a row. And when I do the stitch simulator, the way I learned to do applique was you did one color for the placement stitch and then another color for the tack down stitch and then a third color for the satin stitch. So I'm not sure. This is doing like a placement stitch and then a tack down sort of, and then the satin stitch. So it looks like it already had an applique, but then like she said, it's coming back and it's doing this, which is stitching obviously, and this is stitching, and excuse me, that is stitching on top. So to me, it looks like it's applique. It's just done differently than what I'm used to. So notice right here, Betsy, if you run through this though, the whole front of it isn't stitches like it looks like it is in this picture. Again, let's go back to that picture and I'll show you what I'm talking about. If you scroll, let's see, can we scroll in? If you look at this really, really closely, it looks like that is all stitching on there. That looks like it's all stitching, whereas that is applique. So let's try it on the machine over here and see what happens. So I've already saved this. I've already opened it in my embroidery machine, and I'll show you that here. So what I have is I have some tearaway stabilizer here. And the first thing it's going to do, and let me go back because I was messing with this. I'm going to go back one spool. So I'm on the first, there we go, on the first step. So that should be a placement stitch. So let's go ahead and run that and see what we get. Okay, based on what I can see it's stitching, if you look back up here at Embrilliance, what it's done is the very first part right there, and then it's stopped, okay? Even though it's the same color coming up next, they must have a stop in here because that gives me time to put down some fabric. So I'll get a smidgen of fabric to put down there real quick. And I'm not doing anything fancy, just grabbing something quick like so we can see how this is going to work. So I'm going to stick this on here, making sure I cover where the placement stitches were, and hit the go button again. And that should tack it down and also do the satin stitch. I happen to have pink thread in there, but it doesn't really matter because this is just for practice. Sorry, I forgot to show you. I put that piece of fabric there, and now it's doing the satin stitch. Okay, let's see. So if we look back over here again, at Silhouette, or I'm sorry, at Embrilliance. We have it doing that. And then it's doing just along that side because the other side is probably covered right over here by the other cup. So you don't want satin stitches over here because it would make a hump. So let's go back to the machine now because I'm guessing next it's going to do the placement stitch for the top. So let me cut this off of here first so it's out of the way. So I want to cut this off. Can't see. Let's see. I do not like this at all because the satin stitch, I can't get close enough to that satin stitch really to make it look really good. So I'm not sure. See, the satin stitch should come after the tack down stitch. So I think this thing is not done properly in my opinion because I think that this first I should do a placement stitch. After the placement stitch, we should now have the tack down stitch for this fabric. After it's tacked down, I should be able to cut very close to the tack down stitch before I do the pretty satin stitch. That's my opinion. I don't know if I'm missing something. I'll continue on a little bit more and see what happens. But in my opinion, this is not well done. Very reliable company and not a very reliable design, I don't think. All right, so there I've done all that. And now let's see, what is step number 5? I believe step number 5 is going to be the top of that, and it's going to actually fill it in. So let's go ahead and run it and see. Let's look again and see if there's anything that indicates that in the instructions. Sizes. Okay. Number 1, it says it's going to do this. Placement stitch, stop. Place, oh. I did not read the instructions well, y'all. Make sure you read your instructions. Look at this. Place applique fabric over stitching line. Repeat step number 1 to tack down the fabric. Then trim the fabric close to the stitching line, and then you'll do your satin stitching. All right. If you read the instructions, it'll make sense. So for the hot pink one, it's going to be the placement stitch for applique. Then it's going to stop. They put a stop in here, even though it's the same color. They put an automatic stop in the file. Then it says place your applique fabric over the stitching lines. Repeat step 3 to tack down the fabric. And then you'll do the satin stitch. If you're not sure how to go ahead and repeat a step, let me show you over on my machine how you do it, and you'll have to figure out how you do it on your machine. So let's go back over to my machine now, and I'm so glad we went through this. Read the instructions very, very carefully. This is unusual. Usually they're not written out like this, at least the ones that I've come across. When I get some from Anita Good Design or a whole bunch of other ones, they're not written out like this, but this is correct if you follow the instructions. So let me use my little plus minus needle mark right here. See if you can get it a little closer. Okay. Let's see. All right, there's my plus minus for my needle right here. Okay, when I hit that, I get these on my machine, and you get something similar to this on the larger machine, something like this on the smaller. I'm sure it must be like this on the baby lock embroidery. I'm not sure about other ones. But if I want to go back a step, right now you'll see I'm on step 6 of 19. Let's say I was supposed to repeat step number 5. I would hit the back one spool and it goes back to number 5. Okay, so let's pretend that I'm supposed to do step number, well, let's see if there is any of these coming up. Okay, so for step number 10, so let me go forward to step number 10. Oopsie, we're on step number 10. I'll say, okay, it's going to stitch step number 10 over here. And if you look over at my instructions while that's doing that, here's step number 10. It's the placement stitch, right? For the bottom part of the applique. After it stitches that placement stitch, it says, place your applique fabric over the stitching lines. Repeat step 10 to tack down the fabric and then trim the fabric close. So in order to repeat step number 10, right now I'm on step number 11 because it just finished step number 10, but I want to repeat it. So I'll use the plus minus and I'll go back one spool. Sometimes you only want to go back like 10 stitches or one stitch or forward, but I want to go a whole step back, so I'm on step 10. So I repeat it again, and that will tack my applique fabric down. After I'm done with that, it's going to go on to step number 11, and I can fast forward it to that to show you, and that would be the satin stitch that's going to go around. So I hope this makes sense. If you guys ever have trouble with your files, make sure you read the instructions first. I was sure this one was wrong until I went and looked at the instructions again, and sure enough, it's just fine. It was reader my error. So anyway, Betsy, I hope this helps. Try running it this way. Make sure you stop. Well, the machine will stop automatically. Make sure when it says to go back a step, you do that. And that will be your tack down stitch. Okay? All right. Thanks for joining me. One last thing though, just like Betsy, I did think this looked like it was all stitches, even though it was supposed to be applique. If you look closely, maybe it's just their drawing or their illustration that kind of threw us off and made us feel like it wasn't correct. So, again, thanks for joining me. Check out the links down below. I hope to see y'all again soon. Bye for now.